You know, General Hyten, there are two areas of disagreement that we've heard among our colleagues on both the House and in the Senate. And you've heard some this morning in our opening statements, but one of them is the significance of nuclear modernization. Now, it's disturbing when we see the others, some of our adversaries, peer adversaries, China and Russia, have actually gotten ahead of us in some areas of artificial intelligence and hypersonics. But in the area of nuclear modernization, I know that Jim Mattis, Heather Wilson, and others have said that's the most significant thing that we could be doing. And yet some are saying that that's an area where we could be making cuts at this time. I'd like to have you start off by addressing that as to, do you agree with those who talk about the significance of that program, and make your comments on that, and then I'll get to the second one.
So it is the most important element of our national defense.
It's the most important element of our national defense.
And we have to make sure that we're always ready to respond to any threat. I can do that today because I have the most powerful triad in the world. I have ICBMs, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and bombers that are ready to respond to any threat that comes. And because of the capabilities of each leg of the triad, I have the ability to respond to any threat. We did a nuclear posture review. It was released last year. In it, it validated the need for a triad. Our adversaries have also recognized the need for a triad. They are beginning modernization of their programs as well. In fact, Russia started their modernization program in 2006. They're about 80% through completing the modernization of their triad. They'll be pretty close to being through by about 2020, and in 2020, we'll still be starting. That is not a good place to be from a national security perspective.
Well, that's right. You've actually jumped to the second area of disagreement is on the triad, because several people have said that we don't need a triad, all three legs, that would adequately be handled without all three. So just specifically on the triad element of the necessity of the three legs.
You bet. So when you look at the threat we face, the threat from the Russian triad, soon the threat from the Chinese triad, threats from North Korea as well, you have to look at the three elements of the triad. The bombers are our most recallable element. They're the most flexible element of the triad. The bombers can be deployed and recalled by the President, deployed and recalled before they employ their weapons. They're the most flexible element. We can do almost anything with a bomber. The submarine is the most survivable element. It allows us to hide from our adversaries and make sure we can respond to any surprise attack. And the ICBM is the most ready element to respond to a quick surprise attack. And it also creates the most significant targeting problem for an adversary, because there are 400 separate targets across the United States. All would have to be independently targeted by an adversary. That targeting problem is hugely problematic and creates a significant advantage for us. So when you put those three together, you get this great operational capability. But the other thing it provides for us is the ability to respond to a failure in any one of those legs. If you have a technical failure, an intelligence failure, I can cover it with another leg, and that has happened during my tenure. And I never have put this nation at risk because I have the flexibility in the triad.
Yeah, and that comes also, General O'Shaughnessy, that's a big deal to you too. We look at what we've done with our aging system. We're talking about now getting into a modernized ICBM. I don't know how long that would take. Some people say all the way through the 20s. At the same time, you have our adversaries who have, they may have been late in starting, but they're starting in a more modernized way. Do you agree with that? And so they become a threat, even though right now, today, they may not be ahead of us in these areas.
Chairman, I would agree, and I think as the NDS articulates, the security environment has fundamentally changed, and part of it is because of what you alluded to. Yeah. And I think as we watch both Russia and China create success in some of their weapons programs in advancing the capabilities that they have are fundamentally changing, and not just on the ballistic missile side, but as you mentioned, the hypersonics, yeah, and also in the cruise missiles. And it's not just the cruise missiles themselves, it's also the platforms that deliver those cruise missiles. They've clearly invested very specifically with the ability to hold our homeland at risk with things like submarines and the bombers that they've modernized with the low RCS cruise missiles that they can then launch. And therefore, we have to also modernize. We have to stay ahead of that advancing threat, and we can't expect to have success with 20th century technology against 21st century threats.
Which is what we've had. Thank you very much, Senator Reed.